Hollywood Bowl, backstage, private dressing room. Louis Armstrong sat alone, his trumpet case beside him closed, untouched. His hands were shaking, not from cold, from fear. Real fear. The kind that paralyzes. 18,000 people sat outside, waiting, expecting the Bing Crosby Christmas special, America's most beloved holiday tradition. But Louis couldn't move, couldn't pick up his trumpet, couldn't walk to that stage, because 3 days ago something terrible had happened, something that changed everything. The hotel room, the chest pain, the ambulance, the hospital, the doctors with their serious faces. Mr. Armstrong, your heart is giving you a warning. You need to rest. No performances, no stress. Your body is telling you to stop. Louis was 50 years old, had been performing for 30 years, never stopped, never rested. Always touring, always playing, always giving. But his body was done. Couldn't do it anymore. His heart was tired, his kidneys struggling, everything hurt. And now, sitting in this dressing room with 18,000 people waiting, Louis faced an impossible choice: disappoint them, or risk dying on stage. The door opened. Bing Crosby walked in. 48 years old, America's crooner, the voice of Christmas. But right now, he wasn't thinking about his show. He was thinking about his friend. Bing saw Louis, sitting, head down, hands trembling, knew immediately something was wrong, walked over, put his hand on Louis' shoulder. "Pops, you okay?" Louis looked up, eyes wet. "Bing, I can't do it. I can't go out there." Bing sat down beside him. "Why not?" Louis took a breath. 3 days ago I was in the hospital. My heart. Doctors said no more performing. Said I need to rest, but I couldn't cancel on you. Couldn't let you down. Bing's face went pale. "Louis, why didn't you tell me? We could have gotten someone else." Louis shook his head. "There's nobody else. This is your special night. I couldn't ruin it." Bing looked at his friend, really looked at him, saw the exhaustion, the pain, the fear. "Pops, you're not ruining anything. Your health is more important than any show." Louis's eyes filled with tears. "But 18,000 people are out there. They came to see you, to see us. I can't disappoint them." Bing put his arm around Louis. "Then don't. Just walk out. Show them you're here. You don't have to play. Just be there." Louis looked at his trumpet case, the instrument he'd played for nearly his entire life, the tool of his soul. "I don't know if I can even hold it, Bing. My hands are shaking." Bing picked up the case, opened it, took out the trumpet, handed it to Louis. "Then just hold it. That's enough." Louis took the trumpet, felt its weight, its familiar shape. And something inside him stirred, something that doctors couldn't explain, something beyond medicine. The need to make music, the call to perform, the soul's requirement to express. "One note," Louis whispered. "Maybe I can play one note." Bing smiled gently. "One note from Louis Armstrong is worth more than 1,000 from anyone else." Louis stood, slowly, carefully. Bing stood with him, supported him. Together they walked toward the stage door, but neither of them knew what was about to happen. Neither understood that this one note would become something miraculous. Something that would leave 18,000 people speechless, and something that would nearly kill Louis Armstrong. Before we discover what happened when Louis stepped onto that stage, please subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. This story of friendship, courage, and the power of music will show you what it means to truly lose yourself in art. To understand that night at the Hollywood Bowl, we need to go back, not just 3 days, but 15 years, to understand the friendship between Louis Armstrong and Bing Crosby, to see how two men from completely different worlds became brothers. Louis was born in 1901. New Orleans, the poorest neighborhood, Storyville, violence, poverty, abandonment, raised himself essentially, found salvation in music, found his voice through a trumpet. By the 1920s, Louis was revolutionizing jazz, creating techniques that would define the genre forever. By the 30s, he was international, known worldwide, but still fighting racism, fighting for respect, fighting to be seen as an artist, not just an entertainer. Bing Crosby was born in 1903. Tacoma, Washington, middle-class family, Catholic upbringing, comfortable childhood. Found his way to music through different doors, crooning, radio, movies. By the 1930s, Bing was one of America's biggest stars, the voice everyone loved, the face everyone trusted. White America's favorite son. The two men should never have become friends. The racial divide in America was a chasm. Black and white artists rarely collaborated, rarely even spoke socially. But Louis and Bing were different. They saw past color, saw the music, saw the humanity. Their first meeting was in 1936, on the set of Pennies from Heaven, a musical film. Louis had a small role, Bing was the star. But from the first moment they met, something clicked. Musical chemistry, personal connection, mutual respect that transcended race and status. They recorded together, appeared on radio shows together, became genuine friends, not publicity friends, real friends, who talked late into the night, who supported each other's careers, who trusted each other completely. Bing would later say, "Louis taught me everything I know about phrasing, about feeling, about making a song mean something. He's the master. I'm just a student." And Louis would say, "Bing is the most genuine man I've ever known in this business. Color doesn't matter to him. Only the music matters. Only the friendship matters." Through the 40s, their friendship deepened. They performed together regularly. Louis would appear on Bing's radio specials. Bing would champion Louis's music to white audiences who might otherwise never hear it. In a segregated America, their friendship was radical, dangerous even. Both men received criticism. Louis from some in the black community who saw Bing as part of the white establishment. Bing from some white people who thought he was too friendly with black performers. But neither man cared. They knew what they had. A real friendship based on mutual admiration, shared love of music, and genuine affection. The information in this video is compiled from documented interviews, archival news, books, and historical reports. For narrative purposes, some parts are dramatized and may not represent 100% factual accuracy. We also use AI-assisted visuals and AI narration for cinematic reconstruction. The use of AI does not mean the story is fake. It is a storytelling tool. Our goal is to recreate the spirit of that era as faithfully as possible. Enjoy watching. By 1951, Louis Armstrong was exhausted. 30 years of constant touring had taken its toll. His manager had him booked 300 days a year. Different city every night, different stage, different audience. Louis never said no, never turned down a gig, never canceled, because he loved performing, loved connecting with audiences, loved making people happy through his music, but his body was paying the price. His heart had been showing signs of stress for years. Doctors had warned him, "Slow down. Take breaks. You can't maintain this pace forever." But Louis didn't listen. Couldn't listen, because music was his life. Without performing, who was he? What was his purpose? The kidney problem started in 1950. Pain, fatigue, medical tests showing concerning results. Again, doctors advised rest. Again, Louis ignored them. Then came December 1951. Louis was in Los Angeles, preparing for Bing's Christmas special at the Hollywood Bowl, one of the biggest shows of the year. Millions would listen on radio. 18,000 would attend in person. Louis was honored to be invited, excited to perform with his friend. But 3 days before the show, Louis woke up in his hotel room with crushing chest pain, couldn't breathe, couldn't move, terrified. His road manager called an ambulance. Louis was rushed to the hospital. The diagnosis was clear: mild heart episode, not a full heart attack, but a serious warning. The doctor was blunt. "Mr. Armstrong, if you keep performing at this pace, the next episode will be worse, possibly fatal. You need to stop, rest, let your body recover." Louis nodded, agreed, promised, but inside he was already planning, already thinking. The Christmas special was in 3 days. Bing was counting on him. The audience was expecting him. He couldn't cancel, couldn't let people down, so Louis said nothing. Told no one, not his manager, not his wife, and certainly not Bing. Checked himself out of the hospital the next day against medical advice, went back to his hotel, rested as much as he could, tried to convince himself he'd be fine, that one more performance wouldn't hurt, that he could do this. But as the days passed, Louis felt worse, not better. The exhaustion was deeper. The fear was stronger. By the night of the performance, Louis was terrified. Not of dying, but of dying on stage in front of 18,000 people. During his friend's special night, that would be the ultimate betrayal, the ultimate failure. That's why Louis sat in the dressing room, hands shaking, trumpet untouched, unable to move. Until Bing walked in. Have you ever had to choose between what you love and what your body can handle? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The Hollywood Bowl Christmas special was a massive production, Bing Crosby's annual holiday tradition, started in the late 1940s. Became appointment listening for millions of Americans. Families would gather around radios, listen together, sing along. Feel the Christmas spirit through Bing's smooth voice and the special guests he'd invite. This year, 1951, was particularly special. Post-war America was prosperous, optimistic. Christmas was a time of joy, unity, hope, and Bing Crosby was the voice that embodied all of it. The show featured a full orchestra, guest performers, Christmas carols, original songs, comedy sketches, everything designed to make people feel warm, happy, connected. Louis Armstrong's appearance was scheduled for the second half, the climax moment. When Bing would bring out his dear friend, they'd perform together, jazz meets crooning, black and white, creating something beautiful, breaking down barriers through music. The 18,000 people in attendance knew they were witnessing something special. This wasn't just entertainment. This was history. Two of America's greatest voices, together on one stage, but backstage the drama was unfolding. Bing had noticed Louis was quieter than usual, more withdrawn, had chalked it up to pre-show nerves. Everyone got those, even legends like Louis. But when Louis didn't come out for the pre-show sound check, Bing got worried, went looking for him. Found him in the dressing room, and immediately knew something was very wrong. The conversation that followed changed both their lives. Louis's confession about the hospital, the heart episode, the doctor's warnings, Bing's shock, his concern, his insistence that Louis didn't have to perform, and Louis's stubborn refusal to cancel, his determination to not let Bing down. That's when Bing made a decision. He could force Louis to rest, could pull him from the show for his own good, or he could trust his friend, support him, help him do what he needed to do. Bing chose trust. Chose support, but with conditions. One note pops, just one. Show yourself to the audience. Let them see you. Let them hear one beautiful note from your trumpet. Then you come back here, rest. That's all I'm asking. Louis looked at Bing, saw the love there, the genuine concern, the friendship. One note, Louis agreed. I can do one note. Bing helped Louis stand, handed him his trumpet. Together they walked toward the stage entrance. The orchestra was playing. Bing's set was coming to its peak. The moment when Louis would be introduced. Bing stepped onto the stage. The crowd erupted, always did for Bing. He was beloved, trusted, the voice of comfort. Bing sang 2 songs, beautiful renditions, the audience swaying, singing along. Then Bing stepped to the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a very special guest tonight. A man who needs no introduction, a man who changed music forever. A man I'm honored to call my friend. Please welcome Mr. Louis Armstrong. The applause was deafening. 18,000 people on their feet, cheering, waiting. Backstage, Louis stood at the stage entrance, heard his name, heard the applause, felt the trumpet in his hands, heavy, heavier than usual. His chest hurt, his breathing was shallow. Every instinct screamed stop, rest, don't risk it. But then Louis thought about Bing, about their friendship, about the music they'd made together, about the people waiting. And Louis made a choice, not the safe choice, not the smart choice, but the only choice Louis Armstrong knew how to make. He stepped into the light. Please subscribe if you want to see what happened next. The conclusion will leave you breathless. The spotlight hit Louis like a wave, bright, overwhelming. For a moment, Louis couldn't see, couldn't focus, just heard the roar of the crowd, felt the heat of the lights, sensed the 18,000 people watching, waiting, expecting magic. Louis walked slowly to center stage, each step deliberate, careful. His heart was pounding, not from excitement, from strain, from pushing a body that needed rest. Bing stood to the side, watching, worried, ready to rush over if Louis showed any sign of distress, but also trusting, believing in his friend. Louis reached the microphone, looked out at the massive crowd, saw faces, thousands of faces, all looking at him with love, with anticipation, with hope. Louis lifted his trumpet, brought it to his lips. The crowd quieted, complete silence. 18,000 people holding their breath, waiting for that one note, that one perfect Louis Armstrong note. Louis closed his eyes, took a breath, and played. The note that came out was unlike anything Louis had ever created before. It started low, deep, rich. A moan of a note filled with everything Louis was feeling, the exhaustion, the pain, the fear, the love, the gratitude, the whole weight of 50 years of life, 30 years of music, every joy, every sorrow, all of it poured into one note. But then something happened. Something Louis didn't plan, didn't control, couldn't control. The note began to shift, to rise, to transform. Louis felt his consciousness slipping away, not fainting, not passing out, but transcending, entering a state musicians call flow, a trance, where the music plays you instead of you playing the music. Louis's eyes were closed, but he was seeing things, colors, lights, memories, his childhood in New Orleans, his first trumpet, his first love, his triumphs, his heartbreaks, all of it flowing through him, through the trumpet, into the air. The one note became two, then three, a melody forming, spontaneous, unplanned. Louis's body began to sway, to move with the music. His fingers found notes on the trumpet without conscious thought. His breath controlled itself. Everything was automatic, instinctive, pure. The orchestra, watching in amazement, began to follow. The pianist found chords that matched Louis's melody. The bassist added a gentle pulse. The drummer brushed his cymbals softly. All of them moving together, creating something that had never existed before. Would never exist again. Bing stood frozen, tears streaming down his face. He'd asked Louis for one note, one simple note. But Louis was giving them a symphony, a meditation, a prayer in musical form. The melody Louis played that night would haunt him for the next 16 years. In 1967, when Louis recorded What a Wonderful World, the melody felt familiar, like he'd known it forever, because he had. He'd created it that night at the Hollywood Bowl, in a state of musical ecstasy, when his conscious mind stepped aside and his soul took over. The audience sat in absolute silence. Some were crying, some had their eyes closed, some sat with mouths open in wonder, because they all knew they were witnessing something sacred, not just a performance, a moment of pure artistic transcendence. Louis played for 7 minutes, though time had no meaning in that state. Could have been 7 seconds, could have been 7 hours. His body moved like a dancer, bending, swaying. The trumpet an extension of himself, the music the language of his deepest self. Then, gradually, the melody began to wind down, the notes becoming quieter, softer, more gentle. Louis's body beginning to slow, his conscious mind returning, and with that return came reality. The exhaustion hit Louis like a truck. Every muscle gave out simultaneously. The trumpet slipped from his lips, his legs buckled. Louis collapsed, fell straight down. Would have hit the stage hard, except Bing was already moving, had been watching, waiting, ready. Bing caught Louis before he hit the ground, cradled his friend in his arms. "Pops! Pops! Stay with me!" Louis's eyes fluttered open, looked at Bing, whispered, "Bing, I lost control. The music took me. I couldn't stop it." Bing was crying. "I know, Pops, I know. That was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard." The orchestra stopped. The audience was on its feet, not applauding, too stunned, too moved, just standing, witnessing. Staff rushed onto the stage. Someone called for a doctor, but Louis waved them off. No hospital, just tired, just need rest." Bing helped Louis to his feet, supported his weight. Together they walked off stage. The audience finally found their voice. Applause erupted. Not the usual entertainment applause, but something deeper, reverent, grateful. They'd been given a gift, a moment of pure beauty in an often ugly world. Backstage, Bing got Louis to a couch, brought him water, sat beside him, held his hand. "Pops, you scared me," Louis smiled weakly. "Scared myself. Don't know what happened out there, planned to play one note, then everything went away, just music left." Bing squeezed his hand. "That was a miracle, Pops. That's what that was." Louis closed his eyes. "Or foolishness. Doctors said no performing. I did it anyway." Bing shook his head. "No. You did what you had to do, what your soul required. Some things are bigger than doctor's orders." Louis looked at his friend. "Thank you for pushing me, for believing I could do it." Bing smiled through tears. "Thank you for trusting me, for giving us that gift." They sat in silence. Two friends, who'd just shared something profound, something that would bind them even more deeply. The show continued. Bing went back out, finished his set, but everyone knew the real moment had already happened. Louis Armstrong's 7 minutes of transcendence. The performance nobody expected, that nearly cost him his life, but gave 18,000 people a memory they'd carry forever. After the show, doctors examined Louis backstage and, against his protests, found his heart rate elevated, blood pressure concerning, demanded he go to the hospital. This time, Louis didn't argue. Too exhausted to fight, Bing rode with him in the ambulance, held his hand the whole way. At the hospital, Louis stayed for 3 days, complete rest, monitoring. The doctors were amazed he'd survived the performance, said it should have triggered a full heart attack, but somehow didn't. Called it miraculous. Louis called it music. Music kept me alive, Louis told Bing during one hospital visit. Knew I couldn't die mid-performance. Had to finish, had to complete what I started. Bing visited every day, brought food. Books, conversation, made sure Louis wasn't alone, wasn't afraid. That's what friends did. The newspapers covered the story. Louis Armstrong defies doctor's orders, delivers performance of a lifetime. Bing Crosby's Christmas special features miraculous musical moment. The reviews were unanimous. What Louis had done was unprecedented, unrepeatable, a once-in-a-lifetime artistic achievement. But Louis didn't care about reviews, didn't care about acclaim, only cared that he hadn't let Bing down, hadn't disappointed the audience, had given them something real, something from his soul. After Louis was released from the hospital, Bing made him promise. No more performances for at least a month, complete rest, recovery. Louis agreed, kept his promise, and during that month of rest, something changed in Louis. He realized he couldn't keep this pace forever, couldn't keep sacrificing his health for performance. Had to make different choices, smarter choices. When Louis returned to performing in early 1952, he did so differently. Fewer dates, more rest between shows, better care of his body. He'd learned his lesson. The Hollywood Bowl incident had shown him the cost of ignoring his limitations, but it had also shown him the beauty that could come from complete surrender, from losing control, from letting the music take over. That lesson stayed with Louis for the rest of his life. Over the following years, Louis and Bing remained close, performed together occasionally. But Bing was more protective now, more careful, would check on Louis's health before agreeing to collaborations, would insist on proper rest, proper care. Their friendship had always been strong. But after that night at the Hollywood Bowl, it became something deeper, sacred even, because they'd shared a moment of genuine transcendence, had witnessed together what art could be when you gave it everything. In July 1971, Louis Armstrong passed away. Heart failure, the organ that had warned him 20 years earlier, finally gave out. Bing Crosby was devastated, lost his closest friend in the music world. At Louis's funeral, Bing spoke, talked about their friendship, their collaborations, but mostly talked about that night in 1951. That night at the Hollywood Bowl, Bing said, tears streaming down his face, Louis taught me what music really is, not notes on a page, not performances for applause, but surrender, complete, total surrender to something bigger than yourself. Bing paused, composed himself. I asked Louis to play one note, just one, because I was worried about his health, wanted to protect him, but Louis couldn't play just one note because Louis Armstrong didn't know how to do anything halfway. He gave everything, every time, even when it could kill him. Bing looked at Louis's casket. That night, Louis lost control. Let the music take him completely, and what came out was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard, more beautiful than any planned, rehearsed, controlled performance could ever be. Because it was pure, unfiltered, Louis's soul speaking directly through his trumpet, Bing finished. I'll miss you, Pops, but I'll never forget what you taught me. That the best music comes not from control, but from surrender. Not from planning, but from feeling. Not from safety, but from risk. Thank you for that lesson. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for that miraculous night. The church was silent, everyone crying, everyone understanding they'd lost not just a musician, but a teacher, a guide, a soul who'd shown them what art could be. Years later, when Bing himself passed in 1977, people remembered his tribute to Louis, remembered the story of the Hollywood Bowl, and understood what had bound these two men together, not just music, not just friendship, but a shared understanding that sometimes the most beautiful moments in life come when we stop trying to control everything, when we let go, when we trust, when we surrender. That night in December 1951, 18,000 people in attendance, millions listening on radio. One exhausted, frightened man with a trumpet, one friend who believed in him, and 7 minutes of pure, unplanned, uncontrolled musical transcendence. No one who was there ever forgot it. No one who heard the radio broadcast ever forgot it, because they'd witnessed something rare, something precious, something that proved art isn't about perfection, isn't about safety, isn't about control. Art is about surrender, about giving everything, about losing yourself so completely that something greater can speak through you. Louis Armstrong knew that, lived it, died for it, and in those 7 minutes at the Hollywood Bowl showed the world what happens when a master surrenders completely to his art. The spotlight fades. The applause ends. Louis and Bing have both taken their final bows, but the lesson remains. Eternal, clear, powerful. True art requires risk, demands vulnerability, needs complete surrender, not the surrender of defeat, but the surrender of trust. Trusting the music, trusting your soul, trusting that when you let go of control, something beautiful can emerge. Something you could never plan, never rehearse, never manufacture, only receive, like a gift, like grace, like 7 minutes in 1951 when Louis Armstrong lost control and found everything.